presents Vows and Verdicts, Episode 1.
Crazy.
Feels like it's been a while. We had to whole new journey of changing the name, and that was interesting.
Okay, so again, when we tell y'all that we're going on this journey with you, we are truly going on this journey with you. Every step of the way is something new. And so when we started the podcast, we thought we had done a thorough search on the name Love and Law, but as it turns out, that name is owned by someone else. And so we reached out, and unfortunately, we were able to acquire the name, buy it or trade it or whatever from them. So we had to change the name. So we had to take a little hiatus to regroup and come up with another name. And we landed on Vows and Verdicts. Vows because we do family law, and verdicts because we also do criminal defense. I don't think most of you know that we've done criminal defense longer than we've done family law. Like, my first job as an attorney was a prosecutor here in Georgia, like in the solicitor's office in Clayton County, and then in the DA's office in Atlanta, Fulton County. So I was a prosecutor for a few years, 3 to 4 years, before we opened up our firm and started doing criminal defense. So I have a few more years doing criminal than I do family, but we have two firms: TDE Family Law and Divorce Attorneys, and TDE Criminal Defense. And so we don't really talk about the criminal side as much. People seem to have a lot more questions about the family law firm, and so we have kind of steered to that. And I think that, and us being married and having a blended family and having lived through legitimations and all the things that we do on the family law side, it just kind of naturally kind of flowed in that direction. But Vows and Verdicts will speak a little bit more to both of the firms, more to our entrepreneurial journey in this firm, including podcasts, social media, all the different things that we've done to grow our firm. I think we recently had a post where I was at one of my conventions and kind of got a little emotional talking about our journey when we started 5 years ago at roughly 240, and that was in what?
That was 5 years ago?
And that was like 2020, so about 5.5 years ago.
But firm's been, what, 2008, 2009?
Yes, but I'm talking about the journey to grow and scale the business, because before that, I was a solo. I was the only attorney. Charles worked with me for 4 years, and then he went off and joined the fire department and came back in 2020. And so we decided when our sixth child went to college, because we have 7 children together total, when our sixth child went off to college, we decided to get a business coach and start to grow the firm. It was no longer a job. Now we're looking to expand and really turn it into not just a passion project, but to really dive deep into what I set out to do when we decided to have a firm. Before then, I focused mostly on being a mom and a wife and nailing that. And now it was time to kind of put the business first when we only had one child. And so from 2020, we started at about 240 a year. And last year we did just that, a little above 4 million. And so it's been an incredible journey from 2020 to now in that 5 years. So in Vows and Verdicts, we won't just talk about family law, but again, we talk a lot about our relationship, about blending the family, about working together, about growing a business. You guys are going to see I'm definitely the more vocal person in the marriage.
Really?
Really?
I don't think they would have gotten that from you talking these last 5 minutes.
But the thing is, you always say that it's the lawyer in me, and I disagree with that every time he says that, because I was a talkative person who became a lawyer. I am an argumentative person who became a lawyer. I'm a person that loves the skill of debate who became a lawyer. I think that's one of my secret switches that make me very good at what I do, because it is who I am organically. And I just learned law to go with the personality.
I agree with that somewhat, but the person that I met was an attorney when I met you. So I only have that amount of time to base it on. But you're a very good attorney, and you like to litigate and break down conversation. So I will leave it at that. But yeah, she's a great attorney that likes to talk.
A lot of people that like to talk, and they're not all lawyers. That's my only point. A lot of people like to talk and argue, and they're not all lawyers. But anyway, I digress.
See that answer for everything. She's good at what she does.
Who needs Google? Who needs a Google?
No, I got Tessie. And the shirt to match.
Anyway, so that is what we will be talking about on Vows and Verdicts. Our old episodes are still out there under Love and Law. So
For the time
definitely
being. For the time being, I don't know how long we'll be able to keep those up or how that all works because, again, this has been a
learning
learning
process.
process on what you can do if you have to take it down, the cease and desist, all those things. Have no idea. So for the time being, you can catch some of those earlier episodes, and we may have to rehash some of those topics, depending on if someone says or responds, "Hey, I want more on this," or "Can you talk about that again?" Because they may come down. So I don't know how that all is going to work out and pan out.
But we love ideas. Please, if it's something you want us to talk about, you can reach us on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, our website,
Call the
TDE
office.
Family Law, 404-330-8833. If you have an idea, just definitely contact us and let us know what you want us to discuss because we are definitely open to discussing whatever is important to you guys.
Or if you see us out, which we've gotten some of those, and you have a question, you can, hopefully we're approachable enough or you feel that we're approachable enough that you can say something. I welcome the conversation. Any constructive criticism is always welcome.
True.
So if you see us out and you have a question, feel free to say, "Hey, I have a question," or watch a podcast.
So, on that note, let's dive in. What we're going to be talking about today, because the timing is perfect to discuss Father's Day. Now, just to give you a little backdrop, when Charles and I met, Charles had one child, a daughter who was 3, just turning 3, and I was divorced with 5 children. And so we got together and became a family of 8 instantly, which I still tell you to this day, you're crazy. But in blending that family, then we decided to have a child together 8-9 years later. Did the whole process of tubal reversal, meaning I untied my tubes, then we did in vitro, and we have a son together. So blending that together, we have different
Parenting styles.
absolutely, and we have different opinions about parenting, period. And that journey, what it looks like for fathers versus moms, because when we got together and blended our family, my children had already lived with me primarily. His daughter lived with her mother at the time, and he was a parent that had parenting time. And so his experience with co-parenting was very different than mine because I didn't have to ask anybody to have my children. They lived with me primarily, and they visited with their fathers. I was the primary. And so when we have this conversation, spoiler alert, we disagree quite often on
most of it.
on a lot of it. On a lot of it. So what we agree on is Father's Day is approaching, and there are a lot of dads who will not have the Father's Day that they want, and quite often a lot of them that they deserve because of the state of the relationship between them and the mom. And if you don't want the Father's Day next year, 2027, to look like Father's Day this year, you're going to have to get off the couch and take action. What I can tell you is in Georgia, and this is the attorney talking, in the state of Georgia, you have to go to court to get access to your children if you were not married to the mother. A lot of you get in the comments and you're in your feelings and you have a lot of negative stuff to say about that. But what I say all the time is you don't have to like it or agree. I'm just telling you what you need to know. Signing the birth certificate does not give you access to your children.
In Georgia.
In Georgia. Legally, being put on court-ordered child support through the child support office in Georgia does not give you access to the children. It doesn't matter if the child lived with you from birth. None of that matters. You either have to be married to the mother or you have to go to court to get the child legitimized.
In Georgia.
If you have a child with a woman and you sign the birth certificate and then you later on marry her, that will legitimize the child as well. Because you're married to the mother. So even if you're not married to the mother at the time the child is conceived, If you marry her thereafter and you have a child together, the child is still legitimized. But if you're not marrying the mother, you got to go to court to get parenting time with your child. And I use parenting time and visitation interchangeably, but I like to refer to it as parenting time because you visit someone else's child, you parent your own.
And we get this question, and I keep saying in Georgia, that people will say, well, what if I was in Texas or I was in Virginia and I signed the birth certificate and then I moved to Georgia, but you never went to court in any of those states and there's nothing established in Georgia. All these things that she's saying applies. So that is the reason why I keep reiterating in Georgia. I don't know what it's like in Florida. I don't know what it's like in California or Washington or Montana, but here in Georgia where our firm is, the things that she's telling you apply to here.
Yeah, in a lot of states, Georgia's a little backwards in my opinion in that I think that if the father signs the birth certificate, he should have rights to the child just as the mother does. And I say this all the time, and there's no knock on the moms. Of course, we carry the children, but it's not like you had a conversation with the father and said, okay, I'll take this one for the team. I'll carry the child. That's designed by nature, by God, by whatever you want to call it. But biology determines that the mother carried the child. In my opinion, it doesn't necessarily make you the better parent because you carried the child. In my opinion, it should not give you an unfair advantage when it comes to custody. Now, with that being said,
we agree on that.
And this is where we differ. After we agree on that, this is where we differ. I think that a lot of times the mother, because she carried the child, and not all mothers, by goodness, not all mothers. A lot of mothers, though, because they carry the child, they have a stronger bond with the child. When the child is born, the mother will take the role of primary caregiver. Sometimes because she's breastfeeding, sometimes because the child is delicate, sometimes the father is afraid to handle the baby, they're so little, but the mother a lot of times quite naturally takes the primary caregiver role, and it just becomes easy for her to continue in that role. And that was the case with us, even though we're married in the same house. I was a primary caregiver when we had our son. If we continue that in that role and the child is young, and now our son is a toddler and so on and so forth, he's 5, 6 years old, and because he's so little, it's okay, go to your mom, and I'm the one that's the primary parent. If we get a divorce or if we're not married and we break up, now your argument is that you're in the house and now we should have 50-50 custody. But you are not a 50-50 parent just because you live in the house. What the court's job in Georgia, and they have 17 factors that they consider when they're determining custody and parenting time, but what they're considering is the child's routine and stability. If I am the parent who has taken the child to all of the pediatric appointments, I'm the one that has the relationship with preschool, I'm the one that's there when the child is sick, I try to create a safe, stable, consistent living experience for that child after we break up. And therefore, in that example, mom is going to be the primary parent. That does not mean that you have to have every other weekend, Friday at 6 to Sunday at 6. That's another argument. But that is how most women, by default, end up with the primary parent role because they are the primary parent in the relationship when you are together.
And I guess where, like you said, it begins to differ. I understand that, okay, you may have taken them to baseball practice. You may have taken them to the doctor's appointments. And for the dad that was sitting at home playing video games, that absolutely means that I agree. You shouldn't be you're asking for 50-50 or you want it to be an even swap. But I think where it starts to differ is that dad wasn't at home playing video games. He may have been at work. He could have been cooking dinner. He could have been getting other children together. So, yes, you were doing the primary for this child, but as a team or as a unit, I was doing something else for the household. Now, because I was doing something else for the household, I now get penalized, and I don't get that 50-50 because I was at work and I couldn't do it. But me being at work is what pays for some of these things, and I understand you're trying to keep that stability and that same routine, but that routine was the one that we set up when we were working to this through this together. And now that we're not, and some of those
Yeah,
things that
but
I was
it's
taking care
crazy.
of, you're now going to have to take care of on your own. And when I have the child, I have to change my schedule and accommodate those changes. Doesn't mean I should get penalized in the end for that. So I that is where I feel like the father somewhat felt jilted that, yes, you were doing primarily those things, but I was also doing other things to help provide for the household. And now I'm getting penalized with my parenting time because of that. It's not always the case. And I'm not saying that it's always the case, but this is where I think fathers start to feel jilted because, yes, I was in the house, and no, you did more of these activities and things, but I was also still doing other things to help benefit the house as a whole.
Okay, so for me, moms make those differences, and I build my life and my day around the child. And I still have other things to do, but what I have to do, I build around the child being the primary focus. So when you're saying you're at work, most women, and I can speak about African American women, the majority of us work as well. So while you're going to work, I'm going to work too, and I still have the child as the primary focus. And the job, even down to the job that I take, I can take care of the child, and I get up and get the child off to school, and then I go to work. And then when we come home, I pick up the child, and I'm doing bath time, bedtime, story time, scheduling pediatric appointments and all that around my work schedule. So it's not like I'm home baking biscuits while you are at work. No, I'm going to work with you, but the child is still the focus. But I'm just saying, when you're saying that you were at work, so was I, and you're doing other
You
things for
couldn't
the
have been
house,
at work
so
if
was
you were
I.
taking the kid to baseball practice.
Well, yes, because baseball practice is afterwards.
Depending on, that's assuming that we both have a traditional 9 to 5. I'm not saying that what you're saying doesn't happen. I'm just saying that what we collectively set up, okay, on this day I can take them, on this day I can't take them. Well, I have a work schedule that accommodates it sometimes, and sometimes I can't.
So let's use us as an example. When Charles was, let's say, 3 or 4, you were still at the fire department. Okay, so in that example, you were at the fire department, which means you worked 24 hours and you were off 48 hours. Your schedule would not accommodate his schedule, because where would he be every third day while you are overnight? So that would not have worked. And that's what I'm saying, where the work schedule comes into play, where
But
you're
we
gone.
can also still use that but also those days that I was at work, if he had an appointment, on the days that I was off, I would take him. If he had a practice or some of those things to go to, I would take him.
I understand you can do that when you're off. My question was, what do you do when you're at work 24 hours? Then what happens?
In the situation that we're together,
I'm not talking about together. What
then
are
I would
you
have had to
going
change
to
it.
do?
I would have had to change my schedule. But I'm just saying, I went from this is what it is, and now that we're breaking up, I have to rearrange what's going on. That's not a problem to rearrange it, but to then say, now that I'm penalized, this is what we did under scenario A.
You're not being penalized, and this is what I have to tell our clients when I'm talking to them, because they internalize it and make it about them.
But it is.
It's not a penalty to you, but this is not a ball. It's not a toy to say, I'm being penalized, you're being punished. The point is not to punish you. The point is to give the child the stability. And the child has had, okay, in our situation, till he was 4 years old, you didn't change. The child was born 4 years ago, and you didn't change your schedule then to accommodate being consistent in his life. So now that we're breaking up, now I can change my schedule to 9 to 5 to accommodate and put his life in the consistency for him first, so that you're not penalized. No one's trying to penalize you. It's just for the first 4 years, mom is doing it. And so now we're going to switch it, and he's supposed to live at your house for a week and live at my house for a week, so that you don't feel penalized, so that you can have your 50% fair share.
But that worked when we were together.
It didn't.
Now,
how did it work when we were together?
I'm saying you're saying that, okay, but we're together and we're splitting some of these tasks. Yes, during the 24 hours, no, I can't be there. That's obvious. But I feel like on those other 48 hours that I'm off, I'm filling some of those roles of, okay, I'm going to take him to and from. I'll get the dinner ready. I'll do some of the now that I'm here, okay, I will try to step in more so I can help. It's not just all on you. But the 24 hours that I'm at work, obviously I can't do it. And if it is a problem, then we can work towards switching it. But again, we're together on this. So before we had him, I was at the fire department. When you had him, I was still at the fire department. So we accommodated and made the moves and the changes there. If it ended up being a situation where, okay, this 24-hour isn't working, then we'll talk about it. I'll change it. But now that we're splitting up, I'll change it, but I still need to be given the opportunity to change it.
This is the conversation that I keep having with dads, because the whole conversation, the last 5 minutes, you're still talking about you. I can do this and I can do that and I can do this and I can do the third and the fourth. The only thing that the court's going to be concerned with is what has been done past tense with this child. They cannot go on what you're saying you're going to do in the future. They're going to talk about the stability of the child.
But I wasn't absent, though. That's what this sounds like.
But you're still talking about you. And I'm not talking about you. The judge is not talking about you. The judge is talking about the child. And absenteeism is not one of the 17 factors that the Georgia courts are going to go by when determining custody. We're not, okay, we have a client. We have a client who's a friend who we both know who has 3 little girls. He worked and the wife worked and they got a divorce. And in that role specifically with that father, he's so engaged. His career, which is a very good career, is still built around. And it's not when we get a divorce, I'm going to start doing this. This is what I have to tell fathers all the time. Be the father you want to be day one, if to the best that you can. If you're not living a 50-50 parenting plan when you are together, it is very difficult. Extremely
relationships
difficult.
Aren't 50-50.
Charles, I'm not talking about our relationship. I'm talking about parenting. If you want 50-50 parenting, even as a starting point to have a viable option of that being it, you have to have lived so close to a 50-50 while we are together. The courts are not going to give you an opportunity to be a 50-50 parent because now you're not together if you were not a 50-50 parent while you guys were together. And I understand that career schedules and we're working together on a team. But what I'm saying is what we did together as a team is going to set the foundation for what we're going to do when we're apart. I'm not saying you have to like it or agree. I'm just telling you what it is. Whether our child is 4, whether our child is 14, what we did when we were together at 14 years old is what the court is going to look like. This is what you guys decide was best for your family and your child or your children when you were together. Mom's going to take the lead and dad's going to help with the yard work and dad's going to do the stuff and dad's going to fill in when mom's not available. When we break up, if we break up, mom has ran the point, so continue to do the yard and continue to fill in.
I don't have this house anymore, so I don't have to do the yard.
You'll do the yard somewhere else.
At the time that okay, you doing these things allowed us to have this house and have these opportunities. Well, now that we have to split it, damn this house, I need to have more time. I need to transition some of what I've been doing to focus on this stability for this child. I'm going to tell
you like I'm telling all the other fathers that are angry when you don't get what you want. You can be in your feelings about it, but if you are not living close to a 50-50 while you are together and you're focusing on the yard or the gym or your career or whatever it is you're focusing on, if you want a strong argument,
quit your job, get a regular job so that way you guys can split it. But at any point in time that you're not doing 50-50, regardless of what you agreed to, you're getting penalized, period. You can put a pin in it.
So let me be very clear. Charles is not an attorney.
I understand what the courts are saying, but as a dad that is hearing what the courts are looking at and how you have to move, at the end of the day,
when you decide, saying quit your job, the mothers don't quit their jobs, and they're still a primary parent with a job.
Well,
depending on what argument for you,
because depending on what your job is, if you're working 24 hours, you will be penalized.
Okay.
And that's just what it is.
Let me diffuse that because most of our clients are not firefighters. We've had less than 10. So even outside of that schedule, I'm talking about fathers who work 9-to-5 jobs.
To split up the household roles, if you don't need to split up, you can split up chores, you can split up the bills, but you don't need to split that parenting time in the house. Because essentially, if you do, you're going to get penalized. That's what it sounds like.
So let me reiterate again. Splitting up that parenting time would mean 50-50, wouldn't it? If we're splitting the chores and we're splitting the bills, what I have said
they repeatedly, need to be split 50-50.
You're not doing 50% of the parenting. So we're going to split the bills. If you're not doing 50% of the parenting when we are together, it's a hard ask to ask for that when we break up. Like you said.
Understand.
So what you just said was, again, listening to what you just said, if you're splitting the chores and you're splitting the bills.
No, I'm saying don't do that. You everything needs to be 50-50. We have a team and look, you're going to do 2/3 of this, I'm going to do the third of this, and we'll do 50% of this and 50% of that. But when it comes to the child, if we're not doing 50-50, damn everything else. Damn the electricity, damn the bills, damn the grass, the yard, the whatever it is. The time with the child needs to be 50-50. Everything else is irrelevant from there. So, hey, We got to have 50-50 on these bills. We got to have 50-50 on whatever the household chores are, because I need to make sure that I'm doing 50-50 with this child, because the courts are going to say, well, what have you been doing? Yes, I understand that you're doing these extra hours at work so that way you can send them to tutoring or the extra sports. Son, you can't do none of that. You're going to have to figure it out. I'll sit with you and I'm going to have to be your coach and your tutor. That's fine. But if it takes away from the 50-50 that we're splitting, or we maneuver some other things around, then no, that's not going to work, because I need to make sure that I'm continuing to be that 50-50 parent, or otherwise I'm going to come up short when it comes to custody.
Okay. So, in reality, I worked a full-time job, went to school, went to law school, and was still a very present parent. And I didn't do any of what you're saying in comedy or in anger or in emotion.
It's not a comedy.
So what I'm saying, the reality is, even while we were together and before I knew you were on the planet, me being a parent was always the focal point of what I had to do, whether I wanted it to be the focal point or not. It was not an option. When I was in law school, I got up and got 5 kids together, dressed and dropped off at daycare and in school, and then went to class and had to be in somebody's class 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning, and got it done. And then went to law school, stayed after, studied, picked up those same 5 kids, did homework, did bath, did dinner, did head, did hangout time, put them to bed, and then I studied. I figured it out, and it didn't compromise me being a parent. And what I'm saying is I have to work around that. When I got a divorce, again, I'm a prosecutor. Let me get up and get these 5 kids off to school. Let me go do my job, come home, do their job. And I still figured out a way, even with 5 kids. I was Boy Scout mother to the den. They played sports. I did all of that. And I had a 9 to 5 job, and it did not interfere with my ability to parent. So I didn't, oh, let's do 50-50 this and all of this. Haha. I mean, in real life, I was still 50-50 or primary parent to my children, even though I had a career. So I'm not saying one or the other. I contributed to the finances in the house. I contributed to the chores in the house, and I contributed in a very meaningful way. What I'm speaking to is a lot of fathers who leave the mother to do the majority of the work in the relationship as it relates to the children, and they take more of a traditional role of, I'm going to focus, not even because they're paying 80% of the bills or whatever the bills, because the mother is working and contributing and y'all are paying, sharing in the bills, and y'all are sharing in the chores. But a lot of men have more of a, like your father and your mother had, according to you, where your father was the disciplinarian and he was who you hung out with, but your mother was responsible for medical, your mother was responsible for your education, and that was not your dad's role. In those instances, it will be hard for a father to come in and say, well, now that we are not together, I'm going to step in those roles. All of that being said, if you can't agree on this and you're going to the courts, the judges are people. They're people before they were judges. And you have some judges that start, regardless of what you say, they come through the door feeling like Charles. They're going to come through the door and say, both of you were parents, both of you were present, you both had your role to play in the marriage, and we're starting at 50-50, and you tell me why it shouldn't be 50-50, because this is dad and this is mom, and the children are resilient and they will adjust. That's one judge. Second judge come in and say, this is terrible. 50-50, the child is not a ball. We're not going to do that. We're going to have a primary parent. It's less disruptive, blah, 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 blah. Some judges come in neutral and say, you guys tell me what's best for your kid. I'll hear your position, and then I'll make a decision. That's why it's best that you try to go to mediation and figure out what's best for your children, yourself, and leave your feelings out of it. Because every situation is different. 50-50 is great for some children. 50-50 is not great for some children. A combined 2-2-3 is better for some children. Every child is different. But what I'm telling you is that in the Georgia courts, there's 17 factors that the courts look at. And your emotion is not one of them. And what they're going to look at is, like, there's 4 in a parenting plan. There's 4 key factors. And this is that pro tip that I tell potential clients and clients. The 4 factors that the courts weigh very heavily on is education, health, extracurricular, and religion. Make sure you are very involved. I will ask some of my clients, unfortunately dads, I'll ask some of them, who's the child teacher? Crickets. Who was their teacher last year? Crickets. Who's your child's best friend? Crickets. But what they come to is, well, I was in the house, I was up cutting the yard, all of this. Okay, cool. But you have a 9-year-old and you don't know who the teacher is? Who's the pediatrician? But then you come in and talk about 50-50, I'm being penalized. Well, no. What I'm saying is you're not being penalized, and you will have parenting time with your child, but the role that you have played is a support role. And unfortunately for you, because you want something different, that may likely continue for you, unless you get a judge that's going to come in and say 50-50 is where I'm starting. So you haven't known the pediatrician for 9 years, but all of a sudden, okay, well, now I'm going to tag in it and be present in those key factors. You may continue to be a supporting role, is what I'm saying. And supporting role can look like Thursday to Monday or Thursday to Tuesday. I'm just saying 50-50 may not be as easy as you think. So for all of you who are in relationships now and you're not married to the mother, or even if you're married to the mother, I'm saying to the fathers, I urge you to be more involved than just being present in the home. We have friends, we have family members who have been there and they have teenage children, particularly teenage sons. And the sons are at that age where they smelling themselves and they blah, blah, blah. And two sons in particular, arguments with their fathers is that you ain't did shit. You ain't been here anyway. Like nothing has changed since you moved out of the house. Like it's been mom doing everything anyway. And they've been in the house and they've been present the whole time. They've been in the house and they've been present. But my mom is the one that takes me to this. My mom is the one that shows up at school. My mom is do this. You're in the house and you're helping pay bills and you're sitting on the couch after you come home from work because you need to decompress and roll one. Okay, being in the house is not enough. You need to be active in education. Help with a project. Know the teachers. Go to the school conferences. Go to the pediatric appointments. Schedule the dentist appointment. Do those things. And do them because you know they need to be done. Sometimes you do them because you're coming because mom told you to come. Hey, we got this. Put it on your calendar and you're tagging along. But you're not asking questions. You're just present to say you're present. I'm just saying, if you're looking to have 50-50 custody, you need to start being more involved in education in a meaningful way. Help with homework. Make sure the teachers know who you are. Go to parent-teacher conferences. Ask for one. How's my son doing? How's my daughter doing? What can I do to support them more at home? Go to the pediatrician appointment. Schedule the physical. Take them to the dentist appointment. Do those things that you're going to want to do as if you're not in the relationship. Your child will be better for it. Your relationship will be better for it if you're helping more with the child in a meaningful way. I'm not saying that you're not there for Christmas and there for the basketball games, but relationship will probably be a lot better too if you're helping without asking, what do you need help with? I can dress myself. I can drive myself. I don't need help. Our child needs help. So you volunteer to take them to some games and some practices and some dentist appointments and get them together and so on and so forth. The same thing that we do now with the kids now. I don't ask you like, yeah, you drove them to school today. And it's a shared effort. I got them dressed. You got their breakfast. I'll do their hair. You drop them off at school, vice versa. I'm saying in this situation, we are doing the parenting together. In this situation, I tell you, in the last 5 years, and I have said this to my close friends, if Charles and I would have gotten divorced probably, let's say 4 or 5 years ago, when I was really leaning head into scaling this business, if we would have gotten a divorce, if we were talking about the parenting time and the things that needed to be done, you would have won custody if we were talking about the time with our son. And I've said that publicly 1,000 times because I was spending probably 60, 70 hours scaling this business like head first. And I took a position, and you say, as a couple, we make these decisions.
But I don't, and I understand where you're going. I don't think you should be penalized for that.
It's not a penalty.
But that's the way that I see it.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting penalized or put at a disadvantage because us collectively as a family, this is how we're going to do, this is how we're going to move. And going forward, that's not to say that at one point in time you weren't doing 50 or at another point in time you were doing 50. I mean, it's a cycle. At one point in time you might be doing more opposed to now I'm doing more. When the baby was a newborn and you're breastfeeding, obviously you're doing more. But because you're breastfeeding and I'm not the one that can do that, we're get a divorce during this first year or two while you're doing that, it puts me at a disadvantage because I can't breastfeed. That's the part that I'm saying.
So obviously I didn't breastfeed.
But I'm just saying.
But I'm saying until our son was probably 6 or 7, I was the primary, and it wasn't even close. And then it switched, and you were the primary, and it wasn't close. But we're together, and these are shifts that we're making based on what's going on. But what I'm saying is, based on what was good for our son at the time, and me not being selfish, and I want my 50-50 because I want my 50-50, if I would have continued growing the firm the way that I was growing the firm, it would have been better for him to be with you because I was working so much.
I understand, but things change. That's all I'm saying is hopefully, like you said, you can go to mediation, you can talk some of these things out, because what happens between 1 and 6 may not be good for 7 through 12 and 13 through 18. But hopefully the judge will see the bigger picture. The parents will see the bigger picture. I'm just saying that it's you feel jilted as a dad knowing that we agreed to this, or this is what was working, and now I'm at a disadvantage because I didn't know that this is where we were going to end up, and now I'm slighted or shorted because this is what we kind of worked at the time.
So let's pivot, because we're talking about relationships where we were together, living in the same house when the child was born. There are fathers that we have, friends and family, and they're not together, and they've never lived together, and you're the father that comes by and pick up the child. And even though you've always been present at major things, but the child, y'all have never lived together. And so the mom has always been primary. And now you're finally tired of her shit. She won't let you see the baby. And then you come and you want to do legitimation, and the child's 6-7 years old. And you've always been the parent that came and got the child for the weekend or a couple of days here and there. Again, in that situation, it's going to be hard because that's not the scenario that we have just talked about. And the child's whole life, the child has never lived with you. The child has visited with you a weekend here and there, a week here and there, a month in the summer. It's going to be very hard for you to come in and say, well, we need to take the child out of mom's house, and now the child needs to live with me 50-50 or live with me primarily.
I don't disagree.
That's very different.
That is very different. I feel like that one, you're going to get your every other weekend and your the standard. Because you haven't even done the standard. So I'm not arguing for that dad that you come get them once or twice a month and here and there on the breaks. No, that's not the one that I'm arguing for. But and I'm not arguing for the one that's there and comes home and you have your drink and sit in front of the TV and play video games either. No, I don't think you should get the 50-50 either, because the relationship isn't there. You're not even doing anything. But for the ones that are involved in, no, I don't do as much schoolwork as you do. You are that's your lane, and I appreciate what you do. But the disciplinarian and picking up and the drop-offs and the doctor's appointments, that dad that...
I don't have an opinion about one dad or the other, and I'm not arguing for one dad or the other. I think that's a whole different conversation. I think people rise to the level of parenting based on how they were parented, whether it pushes you to be the same type of parent unknowingly, or it teaches you or pushes you to be completely opposite as a parent. But how you were parented or not will determine a lot about the type of parent you become. So I'm not arguing necessarily for this father or that father. What I am saying is that you need to be aware of the pivotal time that you're spending with the child in an active way. You need to be aware of your level of involvement in the education, hands-on, medical, hands-on, extracurricular, hands-on, not just for the Snapchat and the likes, but in a meaningful way when no one's looking. Like I tell you, hey, you're going to the grocery store, Charles, ride with your dad. It's not about quality time all the time. A lot of times it's about quantity time. He needs to go with you to the grocery store. Just being in your presence. He learns how to be a man from just being in your presence, not because it's a holiday or, for the gram or whatever. And that is very important. And so my argument is that it's not a punishment to the parent that has not been there. And in a traditional time, I think it's hard to be a parent Friday at 6, Sunday at 6. That's like girls' night out kind of thing, play date kind of thing. To me, a lot of the courts have steered away from Friday at 6 to Sunday at 6. Again, that's grandparents' time or something. A lot of fathers who are not primary, a lot of mothers who are not the primary, Something more like pick the child up from school on Thursday afternoon and return them to school on Monday. So they're at your house overnight, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and return to school. And that gives you the opportunity to parent, because if you're picking them up from school on Thursday, you get a dose of homework. You're responsible for helping with the spelling test. You can make doctor's appointments on Friday. You can meet with the teacher on Thursday after school, Friday going to school, Friday after school, Monday returning to school, and you can parent and not pick them up Friday at 6 to Sunday at 6 when all you're doing is fun stuff and you don't have to wake them up and get them ready for school. You need to understand
throughout
that.
all this process, what I have gotten from it, being a dad and being in this situation, if I could tell another dad the most useful information that I've gotten from it is if you haven't legitimized your child and you haven't went through the process, the biggest thing is to start it. You may not agree with the outcome of it, but if you don't start the process, it's never going to change. So whether or not you start and you get some paperwork and you guys get a foundation started, at least now I have a starting point of, okay, for the last 6 years, I wasn't doing it the right way, or for the first 2 years, I wasn't doing it the right way, but this is what I want. Well, now that I'm establishing a starting point,
It's a marathon.
I can at least start here, and in a couple years, now that I've established, I'm doing the doctor's appointments, I'm doing the homework, I'm doing the extracurricular activities, I'm doing the healthcare. Now that I'm doing these things and I can show that I'm doing these things, when I come back to court, judge, okay, this isn't working. I've been doing it for the last 3 years the way that you decided, and I want more. So now we have a starting point that this is a marathon, not a sprint. I didn't agree with the first part of the race, but we need to change this, and I've shown that I'm accountable, and going forward, I need more time with my child. And based on the past track record that I've had, I feel like I deserve more than this.
My thing would be, again, the lawyer in me says, don't make it about you. Even when you're presenting that same argument to the child, it's in the child's best interest if the child has more time with me to do this. But don't say, I need more time. I want this. I want that. As soon as you go to court and start talking about what you want and what's best for you, and I want more time and it's not working for me, you're going to lose. So, again, get an attorney that can guide you in how to say what you mean in a way that's going to land on the court's ear. Because everything that you're saying is correct.
You hire an attorney to speak for you. This is what I want. As long as my attorney knows this is what I want, tell him however you look, sugarcoat it, make it sound all nice, chat GPT it, and give it to the judge in your words of what I want.
I don't need chat GTP.
I'm just saying however you need to do it.
What I know is that the court's going to focus on the child and not what you want. Like I say to our clients, I understand you're the parent. What you want is highly irrelevant. What's in the child's best interest is what the court's going to focus on. And so you position your argument in terms of what's best for the child, and extended family and education and all of those things are things that the court can wrap their head around. So again, Father's Day is coming, and if you're not getting that time that you believe is going to enhance and improve your child's and your children's life, and you don't have a parenting plan, you don't have a court order, you have to get off the couch and stop complaining about it and actually do something about it. It's the only thing that's going to change. Because if not, the only thing that's going to change is we're going to go from Father's Day 2026 to Father's Day 2027, and you're going to still be walking around angry as hell, complaining the same complaint, but not doing anything about it. So, if you have any questions, we're here to help. Give us a call, comment, reach out, do something. If not us, somebody, but you need to get somebody involved, because you look up and your child is 16 and all you have is the same complaint about the mom wouldn't let you get involved. But you don't need to ask her opinion or ask her permission to be involved. If it's important to you, do something about it and go to court and get legitimized, get joint custody, get guaranteed parenting time that has nothing to do with the arguments between the two of you. So, again, vows and verdicts. This is a little bit more along the outcome of the vows and how you blend this parenting time outcome with what you want, what your desires are, how you marry those two together, and what you want and what's best for the child have to come together and hopefully result in a parenting time order that's best for your child, but also align with what you want. So, like, follow, subscribe. We're starting this thing over from scratch because along with this journey of parenting is this journey of entrepreneurship and figuring this out together. Figuring this out together as well. So like, love, subscribe, follow, all of those things. So we will see you on episode 2.